Hello gamers, your ears are in the right place. My name is Kelthar and you're listening to I Never Cast for This, episode 12. We are a podcast dedicated to bringing forth discussions or debates on controversial gaming topics and hopefully putting them to rest. As I said, my name is Kelthar and I'll just do a few introductions here before we get into the debate on the episode, because we are going to be discussing linear versus open world games today. So we should have a pretty good discussion. Maybe even a few debates in there today. But before we get to that, let's introduce who we have here today. So returning again to the podcast, we have Erebus. What's up, man?
Good, you?
Okay. And
I'm fantastic, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been pretty hectic around here lately. We're in the process of selling our house and moving a few hours away and stuff. So it's getting pretty nuts, but we're going to be closer to you, so it's going to be great.
Absolutely.
Yes, for sure. Returning to the podcast again, we also have Albondiel. How's it going?
Good, you? I'm fantastic, dude. How are you doing?
Good. That's also exactly what Erebus.
I know.
He's also fantastic. I think we got a bit of the giggles today.
Everything's going great here, I must say. The air is starting to get cleaner. There's some people moving away, getting further away from me. It's going to be great.
You're not bitter at all, are you? Yes, I am moving farther away from Albondiel and closer to Erebus, but such is life. And also returning to the podcast, we have Athricus. What's up, man? And your mic is muted, by the way.
Yeah, it's good to meet you, bro. How you doing?
Oh, good. Never seen you before, and you do look familiar, but, here we are.
I do a lot of porn.
Oh. I see. Maybe that explains it, maybe it doesn't.
Good job demonetizing the podcast there,
Yeah.
All right. If it's your first time here, just so you guys know what the show's all about, like I said, we do debate controversial gaming topics, and hopefully by the end of the episode we put the controversy to rest. Doesn't always happen, but like I said, we do our best. We're always live, for the exception of today. We're usually live on Mondays, 9 p.m. Eastern time on Twitch, but I'm not available tomorrow night because I'll be out of town, so that's why we're doing this on Sunday night and on Father's Day. And happy Father's Day, gentlemen, by the way. I think
you too, gentlemen.
I was going to say, I think we're all fathers, but I know we're all fathers here. So, but yes. What was it Erebus said the other week? He's like, I think we're all fathers this week. Yeah. Yeah. This is going off the rails. It's wonderful. We're on, like I said, Twitch TV every Monday, except for today. And you can't catch the live show. It's no worries because we're on YouTube. You can catch the VODs on YouTube as well as you can catch some highlights. And we're also on most major podcast networks. And if we're not on one, just let us know. So before we get into the debate, what have you guys been up to, gaming-wise or not? Let's start with Erebus.
Not a lot of gaming this week. Again, there seems to be a trend there. As I become a parent longer, my gaming goes down and down and down. So it's the limited time I did play. I played the expansion of Pokemon. It's been good so far. Lots of things to do. Some expansions getting some criticism. I agree with some of it that it is fairly short, but for the $30 or whatever that it costs, we are getting 2 expansions for that cost. So I'm not too. And the quality of life features that they've added are good. So I'm enjoying it. And other than that, I've borrowed my friend's acoustic guitar, and I've been playing a lot of that with my son, and lots of housework and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Nice. Exciting stuff. I hope your friend or you wiped down that guitar due to COVID concerns.
We absolutely did not, and I have the sniffles right now.
GG.
Wait, I thought Sniffles was gone years ago.
Way to bring up old wounds there, Albondiel.
Wow.
Yes, I used to have a cat named Sniffles that, died while I was on vacation. Thanks a lot. And that's it for the stream. See
you never.
Yeah. Albondiel, what's new in your life in the last week or so?
Funny enough, I've actually picked up Breath of the Wild again.
Oh, yeah?
Completely unrelated to the stream. Yeah. So that's kind of funny. But haven't played a lot of games myself either. Been busy since the sun's finally appeared and going around, outside with Luke and having some fun.
See, since the
usual.
sun has appeared, or your son has appeared?
Both.
That's what I thought he meant too.
Both.
Okay. We do live in Newfoundland, so the sun
I'm
is...
a father this week.
You're... Yes, exactly. Exactly. No, that's good, man. That's good. And you got another one on the way coming. When's the next one coming? October. Exciting stuff,
Yeah.
man. That's cool. And Athricus, since last week, what have you been up to?
Did you buy that Stadia?
I did a lot of Stadia testing. I certainly did not buy one. That's it. I did try Stadia recently, yesterday or today as well.
Why?
So
a
you're
bunch
hooked.
of different ways. No. I was trying to see what that other guy was talking about, and I still couldn't figure it out.
That other guy? You mean the guy on the podcast last week?
Yeah, I cannot remember his name.
Quasimodo?
Thank you.
Yes. Good fellow?
Yeah, that good fellow. Yeah.
Good fellow. That good fellow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good guy. So you're liking it, or you're liking it even less, or
No, I'm liking it just the same, which is not at all. Because it's no different. It's no different. It's just no different.
Oh, that delivery.
I tried to give it a little bit more, just see, and I'm still left wanting. So
you're left wanting? So
Why,
you did
why
the
not make every game like NHL 19?
Yeah.
Why would you not want to do that?
I don't know.
What about
The
NHL 19?
3 seconds of lag in NHL 19, and then add an extra, 5 billion milliseconds. Yeah,
Do you mean NHL 09 or 19?
both.
Every
They're
single
about
one
the
of them.
They're
It
about the
doesn't
same.
matter. NHL 47. It doesn't matter. They're all the same to me. They all lag.
2047 still has lag.
Yeah, I suppose.
Has lag.
Yeah, so you've been testing out the Stadia, and you still don't like it. So
That's
you have,
about it.
yeah, I was going to say you got that free premium plan thing, right?
Yeah, I figured I'd play it out and see how it is. And I've tried all the games already, and they're all bad.
But you tried all the games?
Yeah, it only took 10 seconds.
I've now played all of the games.
Oh, man.
Man. So are you doing 4K 60 on it? Or trying to?
We'll try. Debatable. Yeah, I haven't really played anything else. That's
How are you running at 4K? What are you using? Your phone?
no PC.
Your PC at 4K with what?
Stadia.
We're still talking
Yeah, but-
Stadia here.
So confused.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
but if can it run at 4K if your monitor can't output 4K?
You can run it 4K.
Oh, that's what you mean, yeah. Yeah, if your monitor can't output it, then...
Yeah, I was more testing the capabilities.
Interesting. Right on.
Nice.
Do you, Albondiel, do you have a 4K TV yet? Or
I
monitor?
have a 4K TV and a 4K monitor, and
No?
You don't have a 4K monitor. You have a 1440p monitor.
I bought
Same
another one.
monitor.
I have a second
What?
monitor.
Oh,
Huh?
what'd you get?
It's just another Dell.
Well, as a parting gift, when I move, my monitors are
Have
both sub 10 or 1080p under 4K, so,
You're both 1080p's?
Yep. One is a BenQ with good millisecond delay, but besides that, it's pretty good. I like them. I don't have any problems with them. Yeah. Okay, I think we'll move on from that. We're going to get into the news. So this last week, I know The Last of Us 2 came out. And did anyone play The Last of Us 1?
Nope.
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 Excellent. Moving on. No.
Yeah.
No, I heard the first one was amazing, and it's a game I really, really want to try out. I'm huge on linear story games. That's also going to tie into our topic. But I really like games that are like that just have a solid story. They're not too long, not too short. And The Last of Us 2 is getting completely bombed when it comes to user scores. And I found there's like a massive discrepancy between user scores and critics in a lot of different games. Like a lot of the critics were giving it like 9s and 10s across the board, but I don't know why that's the case. It's something to do with the story, but I remember somebody tweeted out saying the game takes at least like 30 hours to beat, and within like 10 hours, there were so many negative reviews from users. So clearly they hadn't played the game start to finish. It's just them being angry. So like,
yeah, it's
I find that stuff really frustrating.
It's part of the reason it's getting such high reviews, I think, is they've done this big thing where it's like the most accessible game ever made. So if you're blind, deaf, like Helen Keller can play this game.
Last of Us 2?
Yeah, it's the most They have a mode for blind people, a mode for hearing. They have a mode for like various disabilities, people that can't hold the controller properly. But anyways, they have a bunch of different accommodations for the game if you look it up, and people are posting online with various disabilities, like in Reddits and stuff, saying that they really appreciate them doing that. I'm thinking my opinion on it without knowing much about the game itself is like typically when games do that and do like they're forward thinking like that, it can skew review scores that may be higher than what the actual game itself reflects. But I'm seeing a lot of mixed stuff on it. It's also very polarizing because there's some like LGBTQ, whatever the acronym is. Like there's a bunch of pretty like polarizing type topics in there, or they're like really unique to gaming, I guess you can say. Which I guess has should be fine in games. I think we would all agree there. It's just for whatever there's idiots out there that don't want that in games.
I think there's an agenda being pushed, or something.
There's an agenda or whatever. Like so, I think that might be part of the review bombing. But I think it's similar to The Last of Us 1 as far as I understand. Story is supposed to be really good. A lot of mainstream people are tweeting it. The guy that got really physically attractive in Harry Potter, what's his name? Nelson.
Neville Longbottom.
Neville Longbottom. He what's his real name? Like Jason Bottomhorn or something. He
I don't think it's that.
Jason
Jason Bottomhorn.
Matthew Lewis. That's his name.
Oh, it's so close.
Matthew Lewis tweeted out.
It's the same thing.
Syllable.
Oh my god.
Can you imagine if like the directors and stuff, like the people who were looking to like cast, like, yeah, we need to find someone to play Neville Longbottom. Wait, look at this guy's name. What did you call him?
Jason something bottom.
Jason Bottom.
Wait, this guy must be the one.
Anyways, back to my main point. Sorry for all the. Okay. And we're back. So Neville Longbottom, he or Matthew Lewis, he tweeted out that I just stopped completed, man. He tweeted out that the game was really good. And he said he was taking time. I forget what the actual tweet said, but he said he was taking time to think about the story. And there was a bunch of people that tweeted out, which I also think might be contributing to the review bomb because it's one of those kind of mainstream games that celebrities are talking about and stuff. So
yeah.
Anyways, I'm gonna watch. I have no intention of getting a PlayStation anytime soon, but I'll probably watch a Let's Play or something. I watched a Let's Play for the first one. It was pretty cool.
I did some reading up on it, and from what I'm reading, it seems like there's a lot of, this is another controversial topic, but apparently there's a lot of LGBTQ characters in it, and a lot of people are flaming it because of that. It's one of the big reasons people are thinking too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's I knew that. That's what I had said earlier about the theme. I didn't know what the characters actually were. I thought it was just themes in the game, but
I think it's themes and characters and everything else.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so that's it. That makes sense why there's some idiots out there that are
and combinations of idiots who just being stupid, but also I don't know if there's people too who are wondering if they're just trying to do that to sell to try and get sales, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Where
that's kind of the problem, right? Like if it calls for it, if the first one had even an inkling of that, that's fine. But if you're just throwing it in randomly just to pander to certain people, I can understand. I don't know which way it is. But if if there were underlining tones and stuff from the first game that are kind of fleshing out now, that's one thing.
Depending on how they put it into the game, it'd be interesting to see I'll watch a Let's Play. I'll come back next week with something. I'll watch a Let's Play this week.
No, for sure. This is a topic I'd like to talk about eventually too. Just like, it could be LGBTQ or just sexuality in video games in general.
Yeah, no, it's a good.
Yeah, I think it would be a good one to cover for sure.
Future episode, yeah.
And that is my dog barking. Yeah, so I think we're ready to move into the brand new segment called the Comment of the Week. So this is a new segment we're going to try out. It's we're basically going to respond to a comment that was made to us on social media, and we're going to debate back to this person, assuming it's a comment that is directly discussing what was talked about the week before. So last week we discussed Google Stadia, and the most of us that were on there was 4 of us, me, Athricus, and Erebus, were more or less against Stadia. There were some pros and cons to it, but most part, we weren't huge fans of it. But this comment came from on YouTube from a person named Joshua Woodward, and he says, "Get a cat cable and do a direct connection before your trial ends on Stadia. There's a night and day difference. Yeah, you can play it anywhere, but really, everyone still plays games with friends at their home or their own home. Either way, direct connection is best." So do you want to respond to that first before I move on?
No, I'll respond to the whole thing. Just keep going.
Okay. My wife was on video chat with a friend on her iPad and on her laptop while I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2 last night via Chromecast. There was no lag whatsoever since I was directly connected at 1080p 60 FPS on my 4K TV. I like 4K movies just like everyone else and agree 720p is unacceptable for a next-gen hardware. I have a counter to the games argument. It's a brand new platform. Xbox and Sony have been around for decades now. Of course, they have a massive catalog. My counter is, do you play all 1,000 games, even if just the latest titles for the system they offer? That 1,000 no longer matters. Am I missing a part here? Hold on. No, that's right. After my pro sub is up, I'll be back to let you know how things are going. Right now, my Switch is just chilling on my dresser. So, Erebus, I know you said you wanted to respond to this when you saw this comment on YouTube. What do you think?
Yeah, so Joshua Woodward, if that's your gaming name, it's pretty good. Thank you for your comment. Appreciate you contributing to the stream. And respectfully, you're absolutely wrong in every facet of everything you just said. Let's see. Get a cat cable and do a direct connection before your trial ends on Stadia. There's a night and day difference. Night and day difference doesn't really, I wouldn't call it that, because factually, from what we saw, if you watched or I guess you did listen to our podcast, I think Athricus went through the numbers, and Stadia has input lag. The system itself has input lag that is more than double, I think, Athricus, more than double what the normal, like where PC gaming is.
Three times, yeah.
3 times. That has nothing to do with Wi-Fi versus cat cable. Cat cable, yes, would probably improve the latency, but there's still a fixed number that you can't beat. So, respectfully, you're wrong. Yes, you can play it anywhere, but really, everyone still plays games with friends at their home or their own home. Either way, Direct Connect is best. Yes, Direct Connect is best for every platform. When you say no lag whatsoever because you were directly connected at 1080p 60 FPS on your 4K TV, again, you're just the statistic. Like if you look at the stats and the specs, that's impossible. Also, what you're talking about, your wife is on video chat using her stuff, and you can be using your own device and play. I do that with my Switch all the time with much less input lag, so I prefer to go that way. The games argument, though. That's where, when I saw that, I had to comment, because you said Xbox and Sony have been around. Do I play all 1,000 games? No, of course not. I don't play all 1,000 games, but I have 1,000 games to pick from. And when I have 1,000 games to pick from, I can pick a very tailored, customized group of games that I want to play. When I'm limited with Google Stadia on the 22 or whatever games that they offer, 40, sorry, the 22 was the old number, 40. That's not acceptable. Like, it's just not acceptable. When I have other options, that's something Stadia has to figure out. Google is a rich company. They should be able to figure out a way to get more games quicker. other platforms, there's just too much competition out there where I have much more selection. So your Switch is chilling on your dresser, you said at the end. I would suggest you dust off that Switch, plug it in, add me. I have no idea what my friend code is, but I'll send it to you if you're interested. And you'll have a much better experience playing Switch with us, myself and Albandil and Kelthar there. The Stadia, it would not be a good time. So look forward to seeing you on Switch, because after you hear this argument, I'm sure you'll be convinced to switch over.
Anyone else want to weigh in quickly before we move on?
Just to clarify, or just to reiterate, Erebus is absolutely right. All of the tests that were done stating the extra 55 milliseconds were on 10 gigabit internet connections, best case scenario. So there certainly is lag. Yes, obviously it's better on plugged in directly than on your phone, but it's still not a PC. It's not playing on a PC or playing on an Xbox. It's not the same.
No, definitely.
Also, wouldn't a device using a wireless connection not have nearly the effect on a wired device as other wireless connection devices? So if you're using your Chromecast wirelessly, like he says that his wife was using, I'm sorry, I'm assuming gender here, but says that they were using other devices wirelessly, and that wasn't affecting lag and things. But I mean, the wireless connections have next to no effect on a wired connection. I mean,
Yeah.
it does, but hardly anything, especially now in today's internet.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, either way, it's not going to make a difference. So, but thank you, Joshua Woodward, for your
Yes.
comments.
No, we appreciate the comments. And like I said, if anyone has any comments on any of our episodes, just let us comment away, and we'll handpick a comment to discuss every week. All right, I think it's time to get into the topic of the week. So as stated earlier in the show, we are going to be discussing linear versus open world games. So I don't know if we're going to necessarily debate about what's better, but I think we're going to talk about each genre specifically and kind of figure out what works and what doesn't in the genres. So yeah, first of all, what exactly what would you classify as a linear game? Does anyone want to take over that? What do you think? Like, what makes a game linear? What do you classify a game as linear?
A linear game, I would say, is, I mean, we've used the term on rails before, but essentially it's a game that, I guess it removes the element of choice to a degree. Not choice, that's the wrong way to put it, but typically linear games, for me at least in my experience, are more narrative driven, and they're more guided in that, the game is kind of, it doesn't leave you to your own devices to kind of pick where you want to go, do what you want to do. A lot of the time you're guided through a level, or at least partially through, and you have to, and the game kind of holds your hand a little bit as you're going through it. But linear is a very broad term. I mean, there's some games that are completely on rails, like completely, and like you have, could be like a narrative driven game, such as what's your favorite game called, the chick in the school that like.
Oh, Life is Strange. Yeah.
Right. So that's like a linear game, but you have like choice within that game, but there's very little control of the character outside a couple small elements, right?
Yeah. When you said choice, I was going to say, well, I wouldn't say they don't have choice, because
choice. I know that was not, it's not choice. I was thinking of a different thought there, but choice. Obviously, these games can have choice.
I think choice in regards to where you're allowed to go and where not to go, then I think that's more accurate for sure, right? Because that would be more of an open world style game.
Yeah,
that you could do that for sure. Yeah. What, like, just
Largely,
yeah, go ahead.
I would say largely it comes down to more for me at least, your leveled, I guess, design. Like your linear games typically would have what you call typically levels in older games, like Mario and things like that. The older style ones, I'll say. Whereas like I said, the open world concept is more like Erebus was saying, choice. You can go wherever you want, do whatever you want. I think of like the original Halo. You're kind of, you could move around and go different areas, but you're kind of just from start to finish, here's the end.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Halo. That was going to be my first example. Actually, like if we think of Halo Combat Evolved, like we all are very familiar with that campaign, and like you literally just start as Master Chief, and your objective is to go from A to B and kill everything that you can along the way. Right? There's no options to do all these other side quests or anything like that. It's literally just go A to B and shoot everything on the way. That's the way I see a linear game usually. It's just there's not many like choices like Erebus said, but like more choices along like what you're allowed to do, not like a moral choice or anything like that. So yeah, I think Halo campaign is a solid, or any shooter campaign really is probably a solid example of what a linear game would be.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah. What would you say makes a linear game good? First of all, like there's critically acclaimed linear style games out there, but what is it that makes these games, quality games?
Anyone in particular?
Anyone at all, just jump in.
Well, typically the linear style games do tend, and this is probably getting a little bit to versus, but they tend to be story driven. So you think of a lot of games that have, like I said, their individual level designs are different. They're typically games that have, because they're so focused in a certain path, a certain area, they tend to do that area better. And I guess to its nature, to get true success, they need to have what they're focusing on done well. They usually can tell a story better. I find with open world games, your character kind of gets... So in some open world games, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good ones that do it great, but a lot of times in open world games, things get lost. Look at, I'll use GTA as an example, which is one of their, I guess, earlier open world style games, where you travel around to go to missions, and you could run around and kill all the cops in the street. We all did it as a kid. And then go and paint your car, and the world changed, and you're all good, everything's fine. And then you can go and be either a hero or a villain or whatever you want to kind of choose, but like you completely I'll use Skyrim as a terrible example. You go and murder all the NPCs in a town, pay off a guard, and now all of a sudden you're the hero of the land. They do some strange things that way, where like it can kind of be a bit disjoint in your storytelling, if that makes any sense.
I agree 100%. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and we can debate this a little more later, I guess, or we can do it now. But if I'm playing a game strictly for story, in most cases, I would rather a linear experience over an open world one. The exception to that might be The Witcher 3, because that game, every side quest is just so packed with story. But generally, I find it's just like Albondiel just said. I find that like the story gets so disjointed because you're like, I think the classic example is Fallout 4, right? In Fallout 4, I think the game, I haven't played it a whole lot, but I know the game starts and like I think your wife is murdered and like your child is abducted, right? And your main objective is to go get your child, but then you get all these random side quests that are like, if your child was really missing, would you have time to go do all these random things to help people? Like, that's the thing. And I feel like it just throws the story off a little bit, whereas if you're playing a narrative-driven linear game, the story is often more in your face and you can focus on it a lot more. That, again, all opinion. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it or not. What do you guys think about that? Would you agree with that? Or
I look at the new God of War, for example. I don't own a PS4 either, but I've actually considered picking one up just to play that game. I've watched a few Let's Plays and Twitch streamers, and I mean that game just looks incredible. Yeah. Whereas you play things like RDR2 you talked about, open world, but similar idea to Skyrim. You run around, you're a hero, and then you run around and tie people up and drag them behind your horse and kill them all from the town, and then pay off a guard with a few $100s, and you're good to go again.
You say for Red Dead? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, story based. I typically will stick to the linear, like you're saying, myself personally. Yeah. But open world definitely has some really cool concepts that you can't do in a linear game.
Yeah. So would you guys generally agree with that? Like if you want to play, just sit down and unwind and play a story-driven game, would you lean more towards a linear story-driven game or an open-world story-driven game?
Isn't a linear? Oh, well, I would say yes, any story-driven game would be a linear game.
No, I completely disagree with that.
Me too.
Okay, all right.
For example, Skyrim.
Skyrim has a main
Witcher.
quest, but there's a ton of
Yes.
other side quests you can do, right?
Yes.
Right, and they all have a huge amount of story in them.
But isn't the fact that there are so many side quests in Skyrim make it a very
No, but I think a linear game, I guess it comes down to how we define it. But I would say a linear game is typically like you have like a Halo campaign, right? Like you have one story that's thrown in front of you, and you just follow that. Kind of like Erebus said earlier, like you're on rails, and you can't really stray from it.
What was the question? What was
So I
your
was
question?
saying, like, if you were to play a story-driven game, like if you were to sit down, unwind after a long day at work, and you want to sit down and experience a good story, would you want to experience a good story in an open world environment or a linear environment?
If I want to sit down with a story, if I want to sit down with a story, then yeah, I would probably focus on a very linear game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
think so.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Now, that being said, in some games like The Witcher, for example, or Skyrim, you could just focus on one quest line and stick to that if you want to experience a story in a short amount of time. I mean, you could do that. So it's almost like playing a story or an open world game in a linear fashion, right? And Witcher is actually kind of. Have you guys played The Witcher 3 at all? Anybody?
Yeah. Yep.
So
Dabbled.
Yeah. Like I like the way it's set up because it's not like an Assassin's Creed game where or typical MMO style games where like you have like 8 quests and you can look on your mini map and you can see them all laid out in front of you. Whereas if you do on The Witcher 3, you pick a side quest and you can't see any other quests on the mini map. It focuses solely on that quest, which I kind of like because the quests are designed so well with story as their focus that it doesn't want you to do all the other quests and jump around because then you'll just completely forget what's going on in the story.
How long are those quests though? Because if they're like 20 minutes or 10 minutes.
Some of them are really short, but one quest line I was on has certainly lasted me a few hours.
A few hours, okay.
Oh yeah.
And it shuts off all the side quests while you're doing it.
It's not that I don't know if that's the right word, but when you focus, like when you track a quest, like in WoW, right? Like you can track a quest, but you still see all the other quests on the mini map. Whereas
It's very organic. Like you could be doing the main quest, and then it leads into a side quest, and then a side quest leads into another side quest. Like it's very fluid.
yeah, but it involves like the same characters, so it's like you don't lose those characters. You just keep staying on that storyline as it reintroduces new quests, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, like linear games are, I think offer a better story in that and I don't know, better might not be the right word, but it's more of a cinematic experience or like a movie, like when you're playing a really strong narrative driven linear game where you're playing and it's like it's very cinematic and it's very like when I played that, I keep forgetting the name of that game, the game we just said, the school.
Life is Strange.
Life is Strange, yeah. Like that was a really immersive, kind of cool narrative story where you could just chill and there was no choice paralysis or anything that happened within that game other than like the choices that you made along the way, kind of picking different forks in the road, but you were very much on rails in that game. And I think developers, when it's a linear game, like if you think of like a Call of Duty campaign or games like that, where there's so many scripted events when you're playing a linear game, because it's guiding you through the level, the production quality and like all this crazy stuff that can happen, like where you like go into a house and a guy gets shot by another guy or something, and it, like you feel like you're in a war. I think they do that and like all these people dying around you and just crazy shit happening all the time. Like I remember Medal of Honor doing like that Doomsday or the D-Day mission coming in off the boats and like running through the beach and stuff. That like if that was an open world thing, it wouldn't have worked as well, I don't think. Because they had so many cinematic and scripted events, so it's only good one time because you only see it kind of the same way every time. But it allows the developers to do that. I guess it just allows the developers to be not have to.
Like they can zero in on these events to make them like amazing.
They can zero in on them, yeah. So Witcher 3, I think, is heralded so high because it's open world in all essence of the word, but it also has CPDR, I think that's what they spent a lot of time making good stories and really immersive type things in all of their different quests. Like they didn't half-ass it. Everything's like voice acted and really well done. So it's a little bit more.
And they actually have a lot of scripted type events as well in these side
so
quests.
they do. Yeah. So it's a little bit more. Yeah.
But I find it's more of an exception because there's not a lot of games with that much detail that I've played.
Yeah.
Compared to The Witcher 3, for sure. Yeah, going back to the scripted events in like a shooter, for example, like, did you guys play the Titanfall 2 campaign?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was amazing. That was probably one of the best shooter campaigns I've ever played.
It's short. It's like 5-6 hours, but it's extremely well done.
Like it is like jam packed with action and really good story and like it's told really well. Demaxis in chat also brought up Tomb Raider. And Tomb Raider has a lot of these quick time events, and similar to like Uncharted and games like that, where it's story driven game, and it has like
Call of Duties.
What's that?
Even the old Call of Duties.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's just you have Tomb Raider's not really mission based, but it does have a lot of these events where like the whole ground is collapsing and mountains or have rocks falling all around you, and like you have to dodge spikes and like these crazy sequences and stuff. And it's a ton of fun and it's a ton of action, but like Erebus said, like it's only once and then it's gone. And it drives home the whole narrative experience, I think.
I'll throw out the to challenge that part though is I'll use Dragon Age Origins. Brilliant game, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if any of you guys played that.
Yep.
Brilliant game, but it did add a lot of replayability by having a lot of different choices and options. And yeah, it has some open elements, but I really wouldn't consider that an open world game. Compared to like I said, like Skyrim, Breath of the Wild, and stuff like that. But yeah, like the total cinematic narrative element is huge in that game. Always one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was I like that word you just brought up, replayability. I would say that is one of the biggest negative factors for a linear game. What do you guys think about that?
I don't know about that. I don't necessarily agree with that because Deus Ex is one of my favorite games, Human Revolution, and I wouldn't call that.
Is that a linear game though? Would you call that a linear game?
I would, yeah, because it's not true open world. Like, yes, you can move around a world freely, but it's still very limited. Like, there's levels, so you do levels, you fight a boss, you move to the next level. The open world part is more at like the hub area.
But can't you get a bunch of side quests and stuff in that game too?
You can't. Yeah,
I know what you're saying. It's not to the same scale as other games, for sure.
Yeah, but I guess the linear thing is there's there is linearity to it in my opinion. But even if we disagree there, there's
more
games
hub based.
It's more hub based. But the thing is, like, those games have replayability because you can do them so many different ways. Like you can do pacifist runs, you can do gun runs, you can approach levels different ways. Like, you can have a linear game, but the level design is so cool that you can go through the vents in one level, or go take the floor, or just go guns a-blazing, or you could do there's so many different options. So
I thought that was really cool with Deus Ex. Athricus, I know you did like a very hardcore run in that game. What was it exactly you did again?
I did no guns and no mods.
Yeah.
Right. So for
super duper pacifist with no mods, no nothing. I literally just stealth through the entire game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Sam Fisher style from Splinter Cell, basically.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. For those that are unfamiliar, in Deus Ex, like, you can get different mod. Like, it's a cyberpunk style world where everyone has augments in they can enhance themselves in different ways to make themselves powerful and use mods to buff themselves up. But Athricus, like you said, did none of this and used no guns either. So, but did you actually complete the game, or did the game actually stop you in certain
no,
places?
it never stopped me. I just stopped playing. I think I was like super close to the end, and then I just stopped playing So I do have to go back and start again and beat that without.
Was that Human Revolution? Which one was it?
I think so.
I think
Yeah,
it was the first
I'm
one,
gonna.
or the first.
If I'm gonna start streaming or anything, that's probably what I would start with is completing that with no mods. And
That'd be
awesome.
super cool. Yeah. That's
I will throw
intense.
it back to the actual question we started with, though. Sorry to interrupt there.
No, go.
But just something before I forget. To counter against Erebus's argument saying that he would disagree, I would disagree with Erebus and say that most linear games are left with, like I said, a lack of replayability. However, it's the really great ones that stand out because they offer that factor. All the games we talk about that are great games, everything we've listed as our favorites in the linear category so far, all have that replayability. But there are a lot of linear games that tend to not have that as much replayability. I'll throw back to, yes, I've played this game a bazillion hours, and you probably guys have too, the old Lord of the Rings games.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Those games
great,
are great.
Great games. But once again, and like I said, they don't have any big changes to storyline, but you can play them with each different character. You have, like I said, all those games throw in factors that stand them apart by the fact that you can play them again, just with a different experience. But typically the ones that flop or the ones that just aren't as memorable are that way because of the fact that linear tends to limit, unless the developers are creative, it does tend to limit the replayability of the game itself. In the style, whereas an open world style game, you have a world you can play with.
Yeah, like linear games are. I would almost have like multiple tiers for them because like there's linear games that like very story driven games that I only would play once and I'd never play them again, but they're still top tier because they're designed to be played once. Like they're maybe a 6-7 hour story, really fleshed out,
like
really
a movie,
well
basically.
done.
Yeah,
like a movie, like you're like it's like you're playing a movie, like you're just playing in a movie. And those games have no replayability, and that's fine for me. But yes, I would agree. That there's a lot of the majority of games out there that are in that category would probably be not replayable. But the ones that we obviously are more attached to, for the most part, are games that we can replay with different characters or replay different ways. So I like both for different reasons. But I think like for me, I still think I wonder if open world, I guess, and maybe it's on your notes there to go through, but I wonder if open world is it developer laziness to it again that we've talked about on other podcasts. Is it developer laziness that's really causing us not to have many open world games that have a very fleshed out story and have a very kind of narrative driven experience or cinematic experience?
Pleading to the masses to try and get sales as opposed to creating a proper
like because you can have a narrative driven game that's linear, that's like 5 hours, or you could have the same exact thing stretched out into an open world with a bunch of emptiness, stretching it out to be
so
like
it's
30 or 40 hours.
It's the whole principle of mile wide, inch deep, right? So it's like huge open world, lots of things to do. So one of the series that when I was researching for this podcast, and I haven't played through these games much, but the Metro series is a really, really strong linear, immersive kind of movie style game that you go through. I know like you barely have a HUD in that game and you're going through very scripted type levels. But I know the newest Metro game, I can't remember the name of it now. There's like Metro 2033,
Exodus,
Metro Redux.
I think.
The newest one is their lowest reviewed one, and that one went open world and was heavily criticized because apparently it's a decent open world game, but I guess the way that it was designed, for hardcore fans of the series, it lost that it lost the
definitely, and I can see that.
Yeah, the focus. Yeah. Because again, that whole like they had to put their resources more into the open world, so it's less fleshed out the levels, I guess. I don't know much about it, but that was one of the ones that I saw that people really were criticizing the open world aspects.
Well, look at Pokemon Sword and Shield. I mean, they tried with the whole wild area. They kind of tried to implement an open world style area, and I mean, like a lot of people do complain that the storyline is a lot shorter. They didn't include all the Pokemon. Is that one of the reasons why trying to make that area work? Is that one of the reasons why that they didn't give it as many resources, right?
It's tricky, right? Because is it worth blowing up the world to make it massive to sacrifice the gameplay part, right? So, if it's done right, then I think it does work in most cases. But yeah, it has to be done correctly without sacrificing in other areas, like Pokemon had to do.
Well, look at Breath of the Wild, one of the best games in recent memory.
Yeah.
That game's open world is fantastic. All the areas are so different. The shrine system is awesome. Zelda always really was open world anyway. Mm-hmm. But it's just always been a classic game. Really well done.
Yeah. So
let's get into the open world discussion for sure. Right. I think we talked pretty good about linear, but we'll move into open world for sure. And Erebus, what were you gonna say?
Yeah. Well, open world, I guess. For I'm a much bigger open world fan. Like the most hours that I've spent in games are games like, and I put World of Warcraft in this bucket because it's an MMO.
Well, that's
but it's like it is open world, right? So that's like
yeah.
one of my top. That's my most played game of all time. Skyrim and Oblivion were like my two of my most played games at their time. Breath of the Wild is one of the first, probably the first Switch or first Nintendo kind of game that I've tried billions of Nintendo games over the years to try to beat, and I just can never get through them. I'm not a huge single player gamer anyways, but with Breath of the Wild, I feel like they took the route that we almost just argued against it because we said that, our game company's lazy because they're not doing, stories and fleshing out, cinematic narrative experiences and stuff like that. Breath of the Wild throws all of that out the window, in my opinion, and basically throws you into a world where you're just a character. It has the Zelda stamp on it, obviously, but it could have not been a Zelda game and still been, it still could have operated basically the same. And you're just thrown in the world with perfect physics engine, perfect gameplay, multiple options. You can beat the game like right away. You can go right to the final boss right at the beginning of the game and try to beat it. They let you do that. Or you can go explore the world and it's just completely open. And you can go everywhere you can see, which very few games actually do that.
It set the bar for sure. There's no other game out there that I know of that comes close.
But it is heavily criticized because it is it has super high Metacritic scores and all that stuff. But there are a lot of people out there, a lot of hardcore Zelda fans that hate that game because it definitely deviated from the standard Zelda narrative of a more linear game with puzzles and or dungeons, I should say, and different things like that they used to have. But they almost took the route of, we're not going to go for story, like a huge narrative, voice acted story, blah, 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 blah. We're just going to focus on gameplay and open world concepts and make a game out of it. And it was immensely successful and one of my favorite games of all time. I'm a huge open world fan for sure.
Yeah. Athras, we haven't heard from you in a while. What do you think? Are you a fan of open world, or what route would you normally take when picking a game?
I usually tend to take the more open world, plunk you down in the middle of nowhere, and do your own thing. I think one of the only things one of the main things, the thing I can picture in my head the most, I guess, and I know Erebus, this is your one of your favorite games. Minecraft is just so straightforward. Plunk you down in the middle of nowhere.
No.
What?
No.
I know you love Minecraft.
Minecraft is not. You're calling that an open world game?
Absolutely,
that is absolutely an open world game.
It absolutely is.
In fact, probably, I would say that's even better than Breath of the Wild in regards to exploration and all
that.
It's
a sandbox open world.
Oh my god! I know it's your favorite game, dude. You don't have to hide it. I know it's for kids, and I know I get it, but
No, it's not. It's not. This isn't even my bias of hating the game. I just think that it is a terrible game. Oh my god,
dude! It's
not. It's not that. It's that I guess it is open world, like because you kind of you're in a sandbox and you can just. But I almost view that as it's just like Lego. It's like you go in and you build. Like yes, with mods, it can be called an open world game. Like with if
how is it not an open world game? That is 100.
No.
It's a procedurally generated world where you literally go and do whatever you want to do.
But there's nothing you can do.
You can build. You can build.
There's nothing you can
Okay,
build.
hold on.
You do?
By definition, we need to describe exactly what an open world game is, and I think Minecraft ticks all those boxes 100%.
Absolutely.
You can go anywhere.
Yep.
You can choose one of many things to do. Yes, you can do lots in Minecraft. To say there's nothing to do, that's just ignorant. Freedom.
There is an end game to Minecraft, for sure.
There is. Freedom
Yeah.
is a big one. Right? So if you have if you have those three things, you can choose to go anywhere, you can choose one of many things to do, and you have total freedom. How does Minecraft not fit all of those things?
I don't disagree that it is when you're taking the definition literally, open world. Yes, you're in a world that is open, but I disagree with the fact that it's a game. It's not a game.
It's a game.
What is it? A book?
There's a goal.
It is a like simulation of like building blocks. It's Lego. It's Lego in a virtual world.
To be completely fair, back when you played, that's pretty much true. But it has evolved and changed since then. There is an end game. There is an end boss to the game that you actually work towards and build up your stuff. And there's you collect your armor, collect your materials to build the best armor, collect spells and experience and stuff to enhance and enchant that armor, and then you go to the big final boss, which is a dragon, and you can kill the boss if you choose so.
Sounds a lot like options. Breath of the Wild, actually.
Yeah, Lego City Undercover is great.
Oh yeah, let's compare Minecraft to Breath of the Wild. Yes. Oh my god.
But I think in regards to exploration, not in regards to gameplay mechanics and movement and all that, but in regards to the exploration aspect, I think they're certainly on par.
Oh, no. More. I would argue more because it's procedurally generated and it will never end. You can explore forever.
Forever.
Yeah, but there's linearity
in an open world.
What kind of linearity is there?
Okay, so my whole the whole thing that I just said about miles wide, inch deep is Minecraft. So
actually, it's really deep. You can go down really, really far into the ground if you'd like. You can
when you are fighting something in Minecraft, explain to me how you fight it. You whack it with a sword. Mm-hmm. What else can you do? You have like a bow or something,
and you swing your sword, and you can block with a shield, and you can throw spells at it, and you can use a bow and arrow.
Right.
So pretty much everything in Breath of the Wild.
The only person here that has played. Exactly. Yeah. See, this is. Yeah, you got me. You beat me. I have nothing else to say. I hope Kelthar at least knows what I'm talking about with the approach of Breath of the Wild and how when you're in combat, the physics engine, all the different things that you can do within that game to approach.
I love Breath of the Wild infinitely more than Minecraft. I'm not debating that.
No, I know.
So your only argument is the fact that you can roll and jump really high. That's the only.
When did I say that?
Well, you're talking about the movement and the physics. Is that the only? Okay, what are you talking about?
The problem is that you haven't played Breath of the Wild, so you have no idea what I'm talking about. Actually,
please explain.
Can we have a Minecraft episode of I Never Cast?
Yeah, if you want to keep going with this, we can.
Go on. This is entertaining. This is good.
Please.
When you're playing Breath of the Wild, the physics engine is you have different. What are they called? The Kelthar, the different powers that you have or whatever, like magnets, all these different things that you can do, objects
like
that you can manipulate,
powers or something.
Throw.
Yeah.
There's a huge physics component to the game. There's 150 different or 200 shrines or whatever that you can approach in very unique ways to get in and out of the shrine. Very advanced puzzles that you enhance or that you encounter, and you can do them a million different ways. There's weather, and the weather actually affects you. But the game doesn't guide you at all. So you could walk into an area and then start burning because you don't have the proper equipment or whatever to survive in that particular area. It's very, very advanced in terms of the approach to the game. So
I'm still failing to hear your argument, but go on.
What are you? He's asking why his.
Well, in contrast, I can go into a game in Minecraft. I can go into someone else's created world who have created traps and stuff in their area, and I can go through their structure and try to solve their puzzles. And maybe they've there's mobs around, or they're trying to hell. It might even be PvP. Maybe they're trying to prevent me from going into their place as well.
But you're
I
saying,
understand your argument with the physics, though.
and you're saying Breath of the Wild has. Okay, go on.
All I would say, back to get this back half sensible, is it's no point comparing the games. Minecraft is open world.
Yes, I don't.
It's not linear.
I don't think there's any. I don't understand how we can dispute that. You're saying Breath of the Wild has like weather and like all this stuff, like Minecraft does too. You need to eat to survive. Like you will die if you don't eat food from different sources.
You can eat food in a linear game. You can play a linear game, and in Deus Ex, you could be this isn't real, but in Deus Ex, maybe you're in a level where all of a sudden you're starving and your augmented arm falls off, and you've got to eat a food to grow another arm. I don't know, but that's not an argument. Just because you have to eat to survive doesn't mean it's an open world game. What does that have to do with open world? That's a survival game you're talking about.
Let's just do this.
So survival games can't be open world as well?
I'm not saying survival. You're taking everything I'm saying out of context.
Wait out 1 second. Open this link.
No, but you are saying Minecraft is not an open world game.
I don't use third-party sources to verify if I'm right or wrong. I like to argue my own point.
Did you look up like the Wikipedia and does it say Minecraft is an open world game?
I just Googled best open world game. Number 6 is Minecraft.
Well, let's get that author on and I'll debate with him.
Oh, dude, number 6 is Minecraft. Number 8 is Breath of the Wild. So we're coming up closer to first than you are. So. What can I say?
Like I said, I infinitely love Breath of the Wild more, but I don't think there's any. I don't know how you can dispute that Minecraft is not an open world game. It doesn't have similar open world mechanics in regards to like the same kind of collectibles and going around the map and mini map and interacting with different characters and stuff like that. No, I don't think it's on the same scale or the same quality.
I think it's limited by its linearity is in its mechanics.
So would you say that was it DayZ, the old zombie game we used to play?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would you say DayZ is open world?
It's a battle royale. Is it? No, it's not. You're talking about the non-battle royale.
You mean the survival mode. I would also say that that's a linear game.
Are you saying it's a linear game because you have limits?
Or because there's only one objective to survive? Is that what you're saying?
Like, are we saying an open world game is just because you're in an open world? That you can go in any direction?
I'm saying an open world game is you can go anywhere, you can choose one of many things to do, and you have complete freedom to choose what you do.
And unfortunately, Minecraft takes every one of those boxes.
No, because what if I don't want to build something?
Then you
uninstall.
It's like sitting in a room with a box of Lego and being like, I really don't want to build anything, but
I'm going to play Call of Duty and see how many tea parties I can have.
Yeah, but we're arguing open world. We're arguing open world and the element of choice and the element of...
Actually, in
you
Minecraft,
can choose not to do anything.
PvP. You can go around just killing mobs. You can, like I said, you can build. You can just make traps instead of building like a house and all that kind of fun stuff. You can just go spend your entire time in whatever that really creepy undead baby place is.
Yeah. You can choose to build or to explore mines and stuff, or to go progress to end game, or progress to the Nether, or progress wherever you want.
But choosing not to build
2D. If I could choose any shitty graphic area I want to go to and start carving a hole into a tunnel.
I see. You have no arguments. You have to rag on the graphics. I see. Okay, that's.
If a game has bad graphics, it's not an open world game. Is this where we're going?
Bro, this graphics suck. Link to the Past was not an open world game. Its graphics were terrible compared to today's games.
Right.
All right. We can debate this more if you want, but I think. Yeah, I think we're just debating.
No, I'll disagree with you guys as long as you want the podcast to go on for. But we can move on whenever you want.
Agree to disagree. That's fine.
If we have time, we'll come back to that, which I would love to, but we'll see. We still have a couple other things to get to, but
I think the disagreement is on. I might have a different definition of open world in my head than what the established.
Sure.
There might be an established open world definition. What I like about open world games that I like in that, like GTA or Skyrim or Breath of the Wild or whatever. I guess my argument, it's not, I was being a bit facetious, obviously, guys, but but for the most part, like, I like the game. They provide a massive amount of flexibility to how you approach things and how you do things, and the character that you become in those games, and all of these. Like, there's so many multi-layers to it. Like in GTA, one of my first games, like San Andreas, when I was playing that, you could, like, there were so many different ways that you could approach levels. You could do levels in different order, but there was still some linearity that you ended up at the same spot because it had the same ending. I think for the most part in those games. Skyrim, you could become literally your own character in that game. You could be whatever you want to be. You could join any guilds you wanted to do. It was very flexible there. Some of the criticisms that open world game got, though, is the limits of the world itself, and that, like, there was places you saw that you couldn't go to, which Breath of the Wild solved. So I like that. I think what I'm talking about is, in my opinion, Minecraft has a lot of linearity within the game. And I know you're saying,
Sure.
So fair point by Athercus. I'm not gonna argue stuff I don't know about. I'm talking about the version that I played, which was years and years ago. So I haven't played extensively the game where you're talking about there's bosses and different things and, like, more of a format to the game. And I also know that with mods you can flesh out an actual open world game with a lot of mechanics, a lot of user generated content. I know that. Either way, the game is complete dog shit. But I can see part of your argument there. I just think I just think, for me, for open world, and what clicks for me is less linearity within the open world.
Sure. Like, when I think of an open world game, I think, like, I automatically think Assassin's Creed. It's like, it's just, has anyone played Assassin's Creed here?
A little bit, dabbled, not.
Yeah, like, I just think it's a classic Ubisoft game where it's just, you're thrown into the world. It's a big map. There's icons everywhere all over the mini map showing, like, different collectibles you can get. If you collect this, if you break this statue, you get, like, 100 experience points and, like, all these different things. It's just, like, almost like a big checklist of things to do. And that's kind of how I view open world games, a lot of them. I'm not saying they have to have those things, but that's typically, like, stereotypical open world game. That's what I see, what I think of. Yeah.
Giantbomb.com. The difference between open world and sandbox. Minecraft is a sandbox game. Skyrim is an open world game. So that's where they're drawing the line. I know that's a third party source. I'm going against my own damn argument.
Mr. Contradiction over there. Yeah.
But open world games are, I'm just reading it now. Open world games are just that. They exist only in the instance that the original creators cooked up. And while you can have an impact on the world, it's never something that isn't already scripted to occur outside of what the developers intended. Sandbox is normally applied to linear games that have large maps that allow a variety of actions, a number of ways to approach the goal of the level and interact with the elements of the environment.
Yes, but sandbox is also more or less an emerging genre within even open world.
Well, that's your.
I think it still
point.
stems from an open world. Yeah.
Well, no, that's what. Well, yeah, okay, that's your guys' opinion.
Sandbox refers more to the game's ability to be moldable and.
But you're applying your own definition. You're applying your own definition to it, just like these guys are. It's all about how you're defining what it is.
Sure.
Like sandbox. Yeah. Sandbox is saying, they're basically saying sandbox is a linear game because it's procedurally generated. So when you fire up Minecraft, it's a sandbox. It's different every single time you fire it up, but you still have the linear. And again, that's my opinion, but the linear approach to the game. Either way, but the open world, they're saying here, I don't know if I agree with this, but they're saying open worlds normally has one map, gigantic, in which all the levels happen or are interconnected with. Structure of the game is usually non-linear, giving the possibility to tackle one of a number of missions at each time. So that's how they define it, but obviously that's up for debate too. But
I would allow Minecraft, once again, personal opinions. I allow Minecraft to go into the genre sandbox because obviously it is. I cannot move, in the terms of discussion between linear and open world, I cannot move Minecraft to linear.
I agree completely.
No, I agree. I wouldn't. Yeah. Actually, I wish I had read this before because this would have been my. This is what I would have said. I would have said.
You wish you
sandbox
used a third-party
different.
source, like you said you weren't going to do in the first place.
Well, I still think I'm on the same vein. They're just articulating it better. Like they're sandbox. That's what it is. That's what like Elite Dangerous, for example. Is that an open world game? What would you call that an open world game or a sandbox? I'm saying three things now. Would you call it open world, sandbox, both, or linear?
Yeah, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Like I think, like I know Giant Bomb was kind of separating the two, but I think that if you're playing a sandbox, it's still an open world game by definition.
Is a sandbox game just more of an open world game than an open world game?
I would agree with that. I get it's just like, and I know what Erebus is saying too, like because I know you're saying like if you have a linear focus in a game, like, but the what map is massive, does that make it still an open world?
And that's the definition, right? So if our definition, and we're agreeing on the definition of open world game being that you're in an open world, like, and that's if that criteria is met, it's an open world game, then yes, Minecraft is an open world game. I'm just saying that the way that open world games are explained, at least in my experience with gaming, there's more criteria established to calling something an open world game rather than it just being on a big map.
Yeah.
So that's where I would just debate it a little bit in that. And the other thing that they're saying here too is about, because like World of Warcraft is an open world game in a theme park. They call it theme park, where like you run around the world more or less as you please, like wherever you want to go. But it's crafted by Blizzard, and the players will experience similar things in the same circumstances, given that they approach it in that specific way. So,
yeah,
right. So you could say something's an open. Maybe we could provide sub definitions. There's open world theme park and open world sandbox. So if we're saying it that way, then I would say Minecraft is an open world sandbox, and then Breath of the Wild is an open world theme park.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So there, we could probably arrive to an agreement somewhere in there, maybe.
Well, I mean, it's gonna be. Maybe I'm saying the same thing as you are, but I mean, it's gonna be a conversation of open world versus a linear open world. Like WoW is a linear open world technically because it's an open world, but it's, you know, it has a direction that most people will go in, and everyone will experience the same thing eventually. Maybe Minecraft is just an open world, non-linear.
That's what sandbox means.
Yeah. So if that's the definition of sandbox, then yeah, sure.
I think we can agree on that.
Super linear.
We can, but I don't really trust third-party resources.
Yeah, so your entire argument is flawed and thrown out. Sorry. No, that was a really good point. I think that's good, having those sub definitions of open world sandbox and open world theme park for sure. So that's good. I think we kind of tackled that issue pretty good. I want to shift gears a little bit now. We're getting to the end of the discussion here, I think. But do you think a fully story-driven linear game should cost $60? So if you're playing a game like Life is Strange, for example, we talked about that a little bit. It's probably what's that?
I'd love it if they only cost $60.
If they only cost 60? Oh yeah. Well,
speaking of
America, yes. In Canada, it's more like games are $79.99. In the States, it's $59. But yeah, like a game that's a heavily story-driven game, like a super quality game that is probably like 10, 15-hour game. Do you have an issue with those costing $60? Do you think they should always be less? Like, how do you think the cost should the cost dictate the game?
I'm a big believer on time to, what's the thing? Time to dollars or whatever, like
$1 per hour or something.
$1 per hour, you could say, but like I go to a movie. If I go to a movie, I pay probably $20 to go to the movie, right? So if I'm paying $20 and I'm getting 2.5 hours of, white knuckled thrill ride, then I'm fine. Like we all go to movies and pay for the movies we go to. So if I'm playing a game that's even if it's let's say Titanfall 2 was a 6-hour campaign and it was a $60 game, and all I got out of it was the campaign. Campaign was amazing. I personally don't usually buy short games for $60, but I can see that if people enjoy that genre of game, then I don't see a problem with a 6-hour game being $60 as long as it's a quality game, right? Because there's also other games out there that are complete shit, but they're 100 hours, and they're just like they have hundreds.
Well, this
of
comes
hours
back to what we said at the start, right? Like saying a linear game that could be condensed into 10 hours, costing $60 versus the same game stretched out into an open world environment that's like 50 or 60 hours, but it's also a $60 game. Would you rather having that extra crap content just to make the game longer, or would you rather a more compact, succinct experience but delivers way more? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like,
it's hard to know. Like, yeah, it's you want. Everyone wants both. Like, if you could have both,
Be marvelous.
yeah, it'd be marvelous. But
and
it's
that's where The Witcher 3 comes in, right? I keep using that example.
Yeah.
Like, that's why that game is heralded so well, is because it's got
some people like sandbox, open world sandbox, I should say. Like, some people want like very few, ill-advised, warped people love open world sandbox games.
Those people, you could say.
No, but like some people want to be just plopped into something like Minecraft and just be. They don't want any rules, structure, anything in front of them. They just want the world to manipulate and change as they want.
Ready, set, go. Yeah.
Right. And some people would pay $100 for a game like that because that's all they want. They just want they want the game developers to basically give them the tools, and then they go, right. And I think that's very much Minecraft. Like without mods, or without, at least in the game that I play with Minecraft, you very much have to create your own fun. So you create, with your friends, create these different worlds and create, scenarios and different things that you want to do, or goals. You set your own goals within the game, and you find your joy however you find it. I didn't, but you find your joy in that game through that process, in my opinion, and by being, and that creativity and all that stuff. So that, like, yeah, that's one way of, like, that's what some people would look for. I think Witcher 3, as we talked about before, is like a 60, like a well worth $60, $80 game, because you're getting both. You're getting the open world concept. It's got length and quality.
Yeah, I guess a better question would be: should the length of a game determine its cost?
No.
Okay. Athricus, do you have any opinion on that? Should the length of a game determine the cost?
No, I don't think so. And maybe I'm not understanding the question perfectly, but just going back to a couple of months ago, I did a bunch of the math on WoW and how much I put into the game as a whole, with the subscription and buying all the expansions and all the character transfers and everything. And it was well above like $1,500 or whatever the hell it was. It was ridiculous. But putting per hour, going through all my characters and adding up that time, it was well under like 10 cents an hour.
That's insane.
Of fun.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So that's ridiculous. So, I mean, certainly, it doesn't have to be a bajillion hours, for a $60 or $200 or $300 game or whatever. Could you repeat the question, please?
So I was saying, like, should the length of a game determine how much it's going to cost? So, for example, like if you're playing a short linear game like Life is Strange, or Firewatch is another game I wanted to bring up. I love that game, and that was a great experience. But Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go. No.
Should the length and quality, I guess, of the game determine the cost?
Yeah, well, quality. I mean, you got to find that balancing act, right? You can't have a garbage game that's 40 hours and charge $80, but at the same time, can you have an $80 game that's 2 hours and it's unbelievably it's unbelievable? I would probably pay $80 for a 3 or 4 hour experience, like amazing experience.
Yeah, I would too. Right, if it's an amazing game, it's like Erebus said, it's like going to see a movie. You have no problem spending $20-$25. That's without popcorn and all that. Like to go to a cool IMAX experience, or it's same if you go to like a theme park and you want to go on a sick roller coaster. And I don't know how much those would cost, but like it's only a very short experience, and you're paying top dollar for it. Like
I would probably argue that it's a 100, maybe not 100, but its vast majority of it is quality. Price for quality.
They should all have a per hour limit of like say 10 hours, and there's a chip in it that says it's been played for 10 hours or more, you can return them. You could at least then say like, well, this game wasn't worth money.
Well, Steam has that.
Steam has that.
It does, but it's not nearly as good because they limit how many times you can do it and all this kind of stuff. And I think the hour limit's a bit longer than that. But I'm not sure on that. But yeah, I think it all should have that, because then it would force developers to have quality to actually get people to pay for their games instead of throwing games out that are $60, $80, $80, however much the typical game is being at the time. And there's a lot of games just get flamed and people buy them anyway.
Yeah, that's really tough too, because I mean, quality is very, very subjective, right? So it could be amazing for me and garbage for Mark, Minecraft, whatever. So that's really tough for the developer to price their game. 3 or 4 hour game that's phenomenal. It's not going to be phenomenal for everyone.
Yeah,
3 or 4 hour games, though, I will throw out there too. I mean, your shorter games indie games and the like do sell for cheaper.
Generally, yes.
A lot of them are more dependent on. Propzilla said a point of Rocket League, he has 1,053 hours in it, which was $20, which I'm thinking he got his money's worth out of that one. Slightly. I think I wish I could buy another 4 or 5 copies of it, just to support the developer if they didn't sell out. But that's for another story. But yeah, like there's some games, like I said, easily. Why can't more games make a game for $20 that is you can easily dump thousands of hours into, right? Makes you wonder what these companies like Blizzard and EA and the like are doing with some of their games. Is there really any need to sell an NHL every year with an updated roster and very little change for another full pop of change?
Definitely.
Just clinking the cash cow again. People are still doing it though. FIFA is probably one of the highest grossing games I'd say in the world. Some interesting, things we'd see.
Yeah, for sure. I know one of my favorite games is story-driven games, I should say, is Alan Wake. Like when that game first came out, I was hooked, and I just was hooked start to finish. I thought the story was great. I thought the character building was great. But the game was pretty short. It was only like 15, 20 hours, but it was a full $60 game. But that game sits in my memory, and I think about that game frequently, just how much I enjoyed that game. And like I don't think about, it was only 15 hours. I think, man, that was a kick-ass game that I loved start to finish, and I would gladly pay full price for it again, right? But then you look at games like Breath of the Wild or Witcher that is packed with content, and it's the same price. So are you getting the same value there? Probably not, but I guess it just comes down to, like Athrika says, it's subjective. Like, what do you consider good quality and what's not, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not about if you're getting good value. It's the quality of your experience versus the quantity of the experience. Like would you rather have 100 hours of, satisfactory quality, or would you rather 6 hours of like the best 6 hours of your life in gaming, right? And then it's over, right? So some people prefer that. I think some people just push, like I always try to get games that will last me more than 20 to 30 hours just because I just so I last longer on a game and I don't buy something new that quickly. Some people buy stuff.
When we were younger, it was probably a little different.
Yeah, even when I was younger, like I just don't. I'm not attached to those games as much as some other people are. Like, but some people love like for me, I get most of my narrative story stuff out of watching TV and watching movies.
Yeah.
Right. So some people get that out of gaming. I just don't. I get more of my most of the games that I play. Most of them are I get more of the competitive multiplayer stuff.
Yeah.
From that. That's what I used to, socialize with friends and
that's
stuff. But
that's a fair point, right? And I'm the opposite. I barely watch any TV, and if I have free time, I want to be gaming. So I get my story driven stuff from that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. Last point before I want to move on. Do you think there's too many open world games out there? Do you think the industry, like you said, you gave the Metro example, how they switched that to open world? Like, do you think the industry kind of needs to calm down with that and just focus more on quality experiences rather than stretching them out?
I'd say there's pandering to open world because a lot of the world is crying out for open world games. It seems every one of their youngster wants an open world game. Same problem happened with Metro. I would imagine that was less developers saying, hey, let's go and shake up our whole entire game and make it open world when we're having such high success, and more to do with probably outcry from the community of people wanting an open world style game, or some people, I guess, because clearly a lot of people hated it. But I think there's a lot of pandering to open world that ends up not being done as well because of it. Then they could definitely get stricter and actually smarten up and make their games better overall. Certainly, yes.
Yeah, fair points. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think it's not. Open world games are when people are willing to go all out for them, like Breath of the Wild did. They took a huge risk with the Legend of Zelda franchise, going in that direction. That was one of the bigger gaming risks I've seen, like taking a platform like that, where I don't think almost every Zelda game has been reviewed quite highly, at least the ones that I can think of.
Yeah, and it had a massive development cycle too, like really long.
Yeah, so to go into that area of like just pure open world and completely different format for the game, is a huge thing. But they did it and they pulled it off. They pissed a few people off, but the sales speak for it and the reviews. Like the vast majority of people preferred it, and so I think it's a good buzzword. I thought a lot of people try to market open world and try to use it to, like, it sells. Like, people are really attached to open world and the freedom of choice and all the stuff that they
see open world. They're like, oh, that means this game's going to be long,
right?
Huge. I'm getting my money's worth.
Yeah. But then the whole miles wide, inch deep thing that I keep saying is the problem. Like, people, they lose out on those kind of, because it's impossible. Like, to develop, you have to be very creative when you create an open world game to keep it immersive. One of the criticisms of Zelda, for example, is when you move from place to place, there's not a lot in between each place. It's like barren wasteland, right?
Yeah.
But I would argue against that, because I thought the kind of isolation and the different weather patterns,
it made you feel really actually lost.
It was immersive, right? But some people critique that, thinking they didn't put a lot of effort. There wasn't a lot of big cities and stuff like that they could have done, right? But I think they pulled it off. But there are games that I've played too that are just they're compared to, like, I just did the Call of Duty campaign in Modern Warfare. I just beat that a couple months ago. That was completely linear game, but the set pieces in every single was like, just blew you away. Sure. Right? Like, everything was scripted, everything, like you were just kind of following through like you were in a movie. But it was cool. It was a lot more of a different experience. So yeah.
No, for sure. Anyone else want to weigh in there before we move on? No, okay. Blanket statement. Would you rather play a linear, like, if you had to sit down and play a game, would you rather just be a linear, awesome experience, or do you want a fleshed out open world experience?
I like both.
We'll start with Albani. I'll go for it.
Sorry. I personally like both. It depends on what I'm looking for. Playing games with, buddies, probably an open world. You tend to be able to do a bit more, have a bit more freedom what you can do. But
isn't your most played game Rocket League?
Yeah, it is. On my Steam list right now, yep. But then, World of Warcraft has definitely got more hours. But overall, like I said, it depends on what I'm trying to do. Like, if I'm looking for something to play by myself, something I can goof around on, typically it depends, right? Like a linear game is what I look for that, like you said yourself, that cinematic experience. Put tons of hours into the campaigns of the old Halo games. It really depends on the experience. I wouldn't want to see either genre go away. I personally, I'm right in the middle. I like both.
Yeah, fair point for sure. Erebus, what do you think? What would you choose if you had to?
If I had to, I'd probably pick open world just because it's my most played games and what I like to do. Like Breath of the Wild, I kind of just stapled it for me. I know I keep going back to that one, but if I'm lying in bed and I'm on my Switch and I just want to kind of just chill out and relax, like that's the kind of game I would play.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also because it's a game where you don't really have to, there's no story that you don't have to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
Anything. You're kind of just in the world, moving around, doing stuff. You can switch it off, switch it on, take up right when you left off, and not kind of remember where you were in the story and stuff like that. I find linear games, especially narrative-driven ones, are hard to put down and pick up in some cases because, you might want to finish the level that you're on because you don't want to pick it up right in the middle of it or something, right? Because you're in the middle of a mission or a middle of a story or whatever. So if I'm just relaxing and chilling out, open world all the way. But if I've got like a Saturday, which I never do anymore, but if I had a Saturday where I had like 10 hours to play a game and I could fire up something like the Titanfall 2 campaign, I would, I might prefer it then if I can do like have a bit more like extended playtime.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
So you're taking the both approach as well. For sure.
Both approach, but if I had to pick, I'd pick open world.
Sure. Athricus.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be somewhat the same as far as, it really depends on what kind of mood I'm in. But it really also depends on how much time I have.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I could really go both ways, though. Honestly, if I've got a ton of time, I would kind of probably lean more towards the opposite of what Erebus said. I would probably want to go into more of a linear game, just because it takes a lot of time for me to build up and start figuring out what I want to do and how I want to have fun or whatever.
Isn't that the same as what Erebus said?
That's the same as what I just said.
Is it? I thought you said that if you had a bunch of time, you would prefer to do like a campaign.
You said linear.
Oh, okay.
A campaign, yeah, like
a campaign,
like
yeah,
Titanfall 2,
style.
which would be linear.
Oh, I think you just said the opposite, Athricus. You prefer. You said linear, but I think you meant open world when you said that.
Yes, if I have time, I want open world.
Okay, yeah.
Yes,
I figured that's where you were
sorry.
going with that. Yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, if I don't have a whole, I guess it could go either way for time, because I would love to sit down with a big story and do it, or I would love to sit down and make my own fun and really get into the open world. I think if I had a little bit of time, I would prefer to do something that was just pick up and play like Rocket League or something.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'm kind. I hate to agree with you guys, but I'm kind of the same way. Like I would, if I had a ton of time, then see, I don't know, because I had this exact experience before it was in the end of September, and I actually got hand, foot, and mouth disease. It was not fun, but it was fun because I was isolated from my family. I was in the basement, and all I had to do was play video games for 5 days. So that part was cool. That was fun. And I came to this dilemma. I was like, man, what am I going to do? Am I going to play one massive game like Breath of the Wild or Witcher or something, or do I want to beat a bunch of smaller games? And I took the approach of beating the smaller games. So I beat I beat Halo 5 campaign, I beat the Gears 1 campaign, I beat Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, I beat Mark, what was that game that I sent to you when you're like in space and you can go back in time, and what was that game called? Tacoma. That was the good one. Yeah. And it was just a bunch of story-driven experiences, and I loved it. I'm glad I took that approach. But that being said, I would also, like right now I'm playing The Witcher in bursts, right? I don't get to play it a lot, but I might play an hour here and there, and it's just nice to keep trickling through it. So I generally like these smaller games in most experiences I've had, so I find them to be a lot more memorable because they're more jam-packed, and it's like thinking back to a movie, right? So like Alan Wake and the Tomb Raider games, Firewatch is one of my favorite games, Life is Strange, Gone Home, like all these short games like just really stick with me. So that's what I prefer for sure. Anything else you want to throw in about this argument before we move on?
I hate Minecraft.
Erebus, tell us how you feel about Minecraft. No, I'm just joking.
Oh god.
We could definitely have a Minecraft debate. I think that would be a good topic, actually. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I think Erebus would have to sit down and at least play for 3 or 4 hours.
No, then we're not doing it.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, I think we're going to finish off this episode with some trivia. And so I was trying to think of what we could talk about, whether it's open world or linear. Like, I was trying to think of like the first open world game, and like the first one that made it really popular, I think, was GTA 3 in 2001. That was like the first big open world game.
It was, yeah.
That was great.
But it's not considered the first open world game. The first one was like from like 1982 or 80 or something, like, or it might have even been like 76, and it was like a text-based game or something. So I wasn't going to go that route because, like, I'm pretty sure none of us would have known what that answer.
How the hell is a text-based game open world?
It is, because you could choose to do anything you want.
Okay,
go in any direction. It's just
the definition you guys have applied to open world throughout this podcast blows my mind.
It is what I was looking up, right? I was looking up the genre, and that's what they say, right? Like, if you have total freedom to do whatever you want to do in a game, similar to Sandbox, I guess. But
I think if you're gonna define it as an open world, there has to at least be a world.
Anyways, let's actually get into the trivia here. That we're going completely off track here, but yeah. So I thought I knew we were going to be discussing Halo a little bit, so I figured we'd do some Halo trivia, and I know we've all played Halo extensively back in the day. Halo 1. So Halo Combat Evolved is what we're specifically talking about here. Again, I don't want to see anybody looking at the chat. People in chat on Twitch, if you're listening or watching on Twitch, you can enter the answer if you want, if you think you know the answer. But I'm trusting everyone on the panel here to not be looking at chat or Googling anything here. Okay. As before, I'm going to read the question, read the answers, and if you know the answer for sure, let me know. If not, then I will go to you first. But if you do know it, I'll go to you last. Okay. The Marines in Halo Combat Evolved have a ton of dialogue that is directly taken from which film/TV franchise? And you might know this, you might not. Was it Firefly? Is it from Alien? Is it from Stargate or Starship Troopers? So some of the lines from the Marines are directly taken from one of these franchises. So, do the Marines take their lines from Firefly, Alien, Stargate, or Starship Troopers? So this was an answer I actually knew before I even saw this question. Does anyone know this for sure?
No.
I know it's between two. I just don't know. I don't know which one it is.
Okay. All right. Well, okay, we'll go. We'll start with Albondiel this time. What do you think? Talk us through your thought here.
Freaking clue, to be honest.
So think of the lines from like Sergeant and like different Marines and stuff, right? Like, what movie or TV show? Would these lines be from, perhaps?
See, the other issues. I'm not even familiar with a lot of those shows. It's super enough to know lines, right?
Take a stab. I should say we all have 1 point. You guys all have 1 point, I believe. I think the only one you got correct was the one from, I think, from the Joy-Con episode. When you guys
what are the options again?
Right on one. Firefly, Alien, Stargate, or Starship Troopers. Again, if you're on Twitch, feel free to enter what you think the answer is. But I trust that no one here will look.
Am I allowed to think about it more? Because I'm going to be a while thinking.
Just pick
one.
We
need an answer.
Okay. Let's go with Stargate. I don't know.
Stargate. Athricus, we'll go to you next.
I really don't think it's Firefly. I can't think of anything. I'm going to take that off the board. You said Stargate?
So Firefly, Alien, Stargate, or Starship Troopers.
Yeah, same as Stargate. I've never seen Stargate, so I don't think it's on that. I'm thinking between Alien and Starship Troopers. I'm gonna say Starship Troopers.
That was my what my gut was telling me to go with, but anyway.
Yeah, that's a tough call between those two, but yeah, I'll go Starship.
All right.
Yeah, it's definitely. I am a massive Firefly person, and I cannot remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, Firefly's what I'm most familiar with too.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's that. It's. I don't think it's Stargate either. And I was stuck between Alien and Starship Troopers, but I do know in Starship Troopers they have the stereotypical Marines in that show or in that movie. Sorry, that say those kind of corny lines all the time, and have like the funny like off the cuff dialogue. So I think it's Starship Troopers, but I'm not familiar enough with Alien to know if it's from that either. But I'm gonna say Starship Troopers.
Yeah,
sure.
my gut was telling me to go with Starship Troopers, but I denied it.
So Albando, you picked Stargate,
Yes, I did.
and the other two guys picked Starship
Troopers. Yep.
Guys, come on. The answer is Alien. It's from Alien, the Alien franchise, 1986, I think.
Shit.
We
Yeah.
suck at these.
So,
Like 1 for 9 or something.
I'm 1 for 2,
Brutal.
so
so I knew it's some of the lines. It's like there was some kind of like game over man line or something that was taken from it, and there was like, but apparently like a lot. I looked it up. Like a lot of the dialogue is like direct lines from the franchise, which is pretty hilarious.
I remember the game over line in Alien for sure. Bill Paxton said it. That was good. Yeah.
Yeah, game over
is
man.
it bad that I'm not even that familiar with Alien?
Yeah, and man, Alien's awesome. Now the thing with Starship Troopers is a lot of people think, and I've never seen Starship Troopers, but apparently there's a lot of overlap, and a lot of people think Halo was directly inspired by Starship Troopers.
That makes sense. Yeah, they are very similar.
But
Yeah, I
I
believe
but
that.
I don't think there was ever any confirmation of this, right? So
The
yeah.
Marines are extremely similar to Halo.
Yeah.
Like very similar.
yeah, for sure. But that's why I included that one in there, just to throw you guys off and be a
That's
jerk.
good.
So,
Yeah,
Good one. They work.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Someday you guys will get more points. This is great. I need to have an official list, but what's the point? You're not going to get any answers right anyway. So. For sure. That's going to do it for us on the podcast. Hopefully we put the debate at least somewhat to rest, or at least for a nap before it wakes up again. But if you want to tune in to the podcast live, you can always find us on twitch.tv/INeverCast for this at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Mondays. Like I said, today was the only exception. It's going back to Mondays after this. You can follow me on Twitter at Kelthar, and or the podcast itself is at INeverCast4 this. And we're also on Facebook, and we have a Discord channel. You can find that link on our Twitch page as well. We now have Instagram as well. I've never used Instagram in my life. I'm brand new to it. There was a podcast called Side of Ranch. They reached out to me and said, hey, you should probably use Instagram to reach out. So that's what I'm trying to do, and so far so good. So it's pretty cool. So we're on various forms of social media. You can find us on there. And I hope to see you tune in next week as well. And if you have any questions for any of us, or if you want to submit a trivia question for us, by all means, you can submit your questions or comments on different YouTube videos. Or if you want to email us at inevercastforthis@gmail.com, you could do that as well. That's it for me. Let's just do final send-offs. Erebus, thanks for being here today. Is there anything you want to plug or anything before you go?
No, I'd like to plug this guy Tarambar, who said, to me, the open world is a descriptor for the game structure, defining how the map is laid out and how you access various parts of it. To put it simply, you can go anywhere. Sandbox, on the other hand, is a descriptor for the game's gameplay philosophy and implies a degree of autonomy where the fun to be had is entirely dependent on your actions as opposed to any previously built set-piece moments put in there by the developers. To put it this simply, you can do anything. Skyrim would be an open world game. Minecraft would be a sandbox. Thank you, Tarambar. And with that, I'll leave you.
Thank you, Tarambar, indeed. Nothing about your Twitch channel today, eh?
Twitch.tv/Erebus. Notice that I'm still at 341 followers. A bit disappointed in the I Never Cast for this squad. Let's see if we can get that to 342 for next week. If you do get it to 342, I'll plug whoever that follower is.
Yes, please do. All right. Albondio, thanks again for being here, man. Is there anything you want to say or plug before we send you off?
Yeah, thanks, man. Just give me a quick second. I'm unfollowing from twitch.tv/Erebus. I haven't seen that guy in years.
Erebus was a very entertaining streamer at the time, but...
Oh, man, his montage clips are the best.
Yeah, definitely.
But, no, I'm good. Thanks so much for having me again. You know, it was a fun time. Hopefully some people got some good stuff out of this, and feel free to hit us up for some more.
For sure. Thanks, man. And Athricus, send us off, man.
Have a good night.
Nothing to plug, nothing to say.
Nothing to plug. I am considering streaming, but that's about 20 years off, so.
No, seriously, if you do get into streaming, we will certainly plug that for you here.
Thanks, man.
No problem. Looking forward to it. And that's going to do it for us. Thanks again so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.